comments. Plus, we'll bring you today's play of the game. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
We are live inside our San Diego studios, an ending that was as rough as it gets. The Diamondbacks win it. They score 5 runs in the bottom half of the 9th inning to come back and beat the Padres in the middle game of this 3-game series by a final score of 8-7. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Welcome into our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show. Players, kickstart your summer of fun with Jamul Casino Resort's Players Party. That is today, Saturday, June 14th. Score $20 in free play. Then enjoy live music, DJs, and best of all, free food. See JamulCasino.com for details and get ready to party, play, and win. Well, we got a lot to break down, and this is a game you can pretty much divide into 3 separate parts, but obviously the part that you'll remember most is what happened in the 9th inning, and we'll recap the game from start to finish. We'll go back to Arizona, hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. A lot to do on our post-game coverage, but you sum it up this way. In this 9th inning, the Diamondbacks scoring 5 runs, all charged against Robert Suarez, who came in a non-save situation and clearly from the outset didn't have his best stuff. 3 straight singles to begin the inning. Padres with a 7-3 lead. He gets the first out of Corbin Carroll, but then an infield single that was originally ruled an out at first base. On replay, Ketel Marte ruled safe, an infield RBI single to make it a 7-4 game. Then Geraldo Perdomo, a bases clearing triple to tie the game at 7. Robert Suarez comes out, Adrian Morejon comes in, and on the very first pitch that Adrian Morejon throws, a little tapper to the first base side off the bat of Josh Naylor. Luis Arraez comes in with the infield in, obviously not a great throw to home, and Perdomo scores a dive across home plate just before Diaz can get the tag down, and that was it. A 5-run 9th inning in what otherwise, before the 9th inning, was shaping up to be a really good and really much-needed win for the Padres. But again, we'll get into what happened in the first 8.5 innings in this game. But you look at the 9th inning, there were really 2 issues. Number one, Robert Suarez clearly did not have his best stuff. Suarez has had a tremendous first half of the season, an all-star caliber first half of the season, but you could tell early on that the pitches were a little bit up, that the Diamondbacks were on it, and you could sort of feel something brewing from the outset there with Robert Suarez, and ultimately the big swing in that inning is the bases clearing triple by Geraldo Perdomo. So Suarez, a rare day where he just did not have it, and you look at his season, really, he's been terrific aside from 2 games. There was that game against the Angels where he had a really, really rough outing, and the Angels came back to win it by a Taylor Ward grand slam later in the inning against Alec Jacob, if you remember all that from a handful of weeks ago. And then here today, where again, not a save situation in the 9th inning, but he was tagged for ultimately 5 hits in this game, 5 runs scored. And again, a lot of it's on Robert Suarez, but you really look at 2 moments in that 9th inning that also had a really big impact. Number one, Xander Bogaerts did about all he could to get Marte at first base. If he makes a little bit of a stronger throw, it's a tough play, then maybe they get him at first base. I mean, it was as close as close gets. The ruling on the field was out. You could see on the replay, even though it was really, really close, that Marte just beat it before it could hit the back of the glove of Luis Arraez at first base. And I thought Jesse and Tony made an excellent point in the wrap-up there. You know, that's a play to end the game that, quite frankly, has got to be made. Luis Arraez comes in on it with the infield in. I understand it wasn't hit hard. I know Perdomo is fast and he's coming from third. But number one, it wasn't a great throw from Luis Arraez. It was high, which meant Diaz had to go up and get it and then bring it down to apply the tag. And again, I thought Jesse and Tony made a great point. That's a spot with the infield in, with a runner on third base, where you're actually allowed to block the plate. And if you go and look at the replay, I mean, Diaz gives Perdomo a clear lane to home plate on that third base side of the plate. And you know what? If he's got more of a foot on that side of the plate and makes it a little bit more difficult for Perdomo to get his hand in there. Who knows? Maybe Diaz can get the tag down before Perdomo gets across home plate. So, there wasn't great execution on that final play. And hey, you're trying to keep it a tie game. I understand the game had gotten away. 4 runs, you're not feeling great, but you almost feel like in that spot, that's a play where there's got to be a little bit better of execution. But again, you look at Robert Suarez, a really, really tough outing. Those are little details that make a big difference in a spot like that, talking about the final play of the game. And ultimately, one way or another, it's a really, really rough loss for the Padres. They trailed in this game 3-1. They came back to take a lead. They had some of the best moments offensively that we've seen in a while. And ultimately, it all comes to a screeching halt with that 9th inning as the Diamondbacks storm back to win it, a 5-run bottom half of the 9th inning as they beat the Padres. And now the Padres will try to avoid a sweep at the hands of the D-backs tomorrow. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll recap this one in its entirety. We'll go back to Arizona, hear from Mike Shildt. Again, the final score, D-backs 8, Padres 7. Our postgame coverage continues after this.
Tony Gwynn Jr. here.
Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Final score, the Diamondbacks 8 and the Padres 7. A really, really rough ending for the Padres on this Saturday. Padres dropped to 38-31. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Diamondbacks back to 2 games above 500 at 36-34. We will go back to Chase Field in Arizona, here from Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Like I said in the opening segment, this was a game that you really could split into 3 very different parts. Let's illustrate it as we take you back through it.
Which moments determine the outcome of today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game highlights on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin in the top of the second. Zach Allen on the mound today for Arizona. There were 2 outs and nobody on for Gavin Sheets.
Sheets hammers this one in the air, deep down the right field line. Headed towards the bullpen, way back, gonna go. Long home run for Gavin Sheets. 12th of the season, and the Padres strike first. A solo shot here in the second. It's 1-0.
Rookie right-hander Ryan Berger was electric for the Padres early on. 3 scoreless innings to begin his start with 6 strikeouts. Padres still led 1-0 going to the 4th inning. Berger faced his first amount of trouble. A 1-out walk, a single that brought up Eugenio Suarez.
Suarez swings, hits it in the air, deep to left field. This one way back and gone. A 3-run home run for Eugenio Suarez, his 20th of the year. And just like that, the Diamondbacks lead. It's 3-1.
Berger would get through 5 innings, allowed just those 3 runs. He struck out 8, so a solid outing in his 3rd major league start for the young right-hander Ryan Berger. Padres had great scoring chances as the game went on. In the top of the 5th inning, Gallen walked 2, but the Padres couldn't score a run. In the 6th inning, Padres put 2 on with 1 out, but they came up empty. Gallen was back to work in the top of the 7th inning. D-backs still leading 3-1. Gavin Sheets hit a leadoff double. Jake Cronenworth singled to send Sheets to third base. So the Padres had runners on first and third with nobody out, but then Gallen struck out Luis Campusano. He walked Elias Diaz to load the bases. At that point, Arizona manager Torey Lovullo went to righty Ryan Thompson to face Fernando Tatis Jr. The count went to 3-2.
3-2 pitch. Tatis hits it on the ground sharply beyond the dive of Suarez into left field. Sheets has scored. Cronenworth's on the way. He scores standing up. A 2-run game-tying single for Tatis, and it's 3-3 here in the 7th.
A huge hit for Fernando Tatis Jr. Luis Ariz then flew out, but there were still 2 on base for Manny Machado.
And the first pitch, Manny lines it into left center field. He has found the gap, and the Padres going to take the lead. Diaz scores easily from second. Fernando rounding third. He'll score easily from first. It's a 2-run double for Manny Machado, and the Pods are back in front. It's 5-3.
You better believe it.
So a 4-run 7th inning for the Padres. Big hits from Manny and Fernando. There was an unfortunate end to that inning. We haven't mentioned it yet. The Padres tried a double steal. The throw into second. Jackson Merrill was tagged out on the helmet by Ketel Marte. He was visibly shaken up, immediately removed from the game and replaced by Brandon Lockridge. And I'm sure we'll get the latest on Jackson Merrill from Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that. Padres led 5-3 going to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Jeremiah Estrada got the first 2 outs of the inning, but then he walked 2 in a row. Estrada got a ground out from Ketel Marte to end the inning and strand the tying runs on. Padres still led 5-3 going to the 8th inning. Jason Adam worked around a leadoff hit, and he retired the next 3 in a row. Padres led 5-3 going to the 9th inning. D-backs went to righty Kevin Ginkel. Elias Diaz walked. Fernando Tatis Jr. singled. Manny Machado reached on an error to load the bases. That brought up Brandon Lockridge.
Infield in, the 0-1 pitch. Lockridge hits a chopper back to Ginkel. Off his glove. Perdomo tries to barehand it. He's got nothing to do with it. Diaz scores. Lockridge reaches on the infield hit, and the Padre lead is 6-3.
So a 6-3 Padres lead. They would score another run on a sacrifice fly from Xander Bogaerts. 2 big insurance runs. It was 7-3. Robert Suarez came in for the 9th inning. Not a save situation. There was immediate trouble. Pavin Smith had a leadoff single. Gabby Moreno singled. Alec Thomas singled to load the bases. Suarez then struck out Corbin Carroll for the first out of the inning. Ketel Marte was next. He bounced one pretty slowly to the left side of the infield. Xander Bogaerts picked it up through to first. The initial call was out as a run scored, but then after a replay review, well, Marte actually beat it out. It was really close, but he did beat it out. He did touch the bag before the ball hit the back of Luis Ariz's mitt. So Marte was safe at first base. The run did score anyway. It was 7-4 Padres, and the bases were loaded for the Diamondbacks. Geraldo Perdomo dug in.
Bases loaded, 1 out, up by 3. The 1-1 pitch ripped into right field. That's a base hit. Moreno has scored. Thomas is being waved. It gets beyond Tatis all the way to the wall. Here comes Marte. The game is tied. Perdomo into third with a bases clearing triple. And it's 7-7 here in the 9th.
A 4-run ninth inning at that point for Arizona. Just like that, as Jesse said, we were tied at 7. That was it for Robert Suarez. Padres went to lefty Adrian Morejon to face the left-handed hitting Josh Naylor. The winning run 90 feet away. It was Morejon against Naylor.
Lefty to lefty, Morejon delivers, and a slow topper to first. Arises got it, coming home. The tag is, not in time! Not in time! Perdomo slid in head first. He's called safe. Obviously, the Padres will challenge it. It was a tag play, and home plate umpire James Hoy said he slid in ahead of the tag from the Padre catcher Diaz.
The Padres did challenge it, but the challenge was unsuccessful. On replay, it was Perdomo clearly getting his hand in before the tag applied by Diaz, and that was it. A 5-run bottom half of the ninth inning for the Diamondbacks as they storm back to win it by a final score of 8-7. All 5 runs in the ninth inning charged against the Padres closer, Robert Suarez, who got just 1 out in the ninth inning. Final totals here today for San Diego: 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors. For Arizona, 8 runs, 9 hits, and 1 error. Padres dropped to 38-31. Diamondbacks improved to 36-34. Padres will now try to avoid a 3-game sweep tomorrow in the series finale. We'll step aside. When we come back, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt after this. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. A really, really rough ending for the Padres on this Saturday in Phoenix, Arizona. Final score, Diamondbacks 8 and the Padres 7. We'll go back to Chase Field in Phoenix. Hear from Mike Shildt in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. You've heard me say a few times now that you could really split this game into 3 separate parts, and here's how I would explain this game quickly in case you're you're just joining us. Maybe you were enjoying a beautiful Saturday here in San Diego, and you're just catching up on what happened in this game. The first part of the game, Gavin Sheets hits a solo home run in the second inning to give the Padres a 1-0 lead. Ryan Berger was excellent in the first 3 innings, then gives up a 3-run home run to Eugenio Suarez in the bottom half of the 4th inning to make it 3-1. Arizona still led 3-1 going to the top of the 7th inning, and quite frankly, at that point, sort of the same old story for the Padres, where they weren't doing really anything offensively. The opportunities they had great ones in the 5th inning and the 6th inning to score runs. They had come up empty, and you were, I think, sort of sitting there saying, this feels like deja vu, where the offense is just not scoring, and it's going to be one swing for the opposition that decides this game. But then it brings us to part 2 of this 3-part story today, and that was a 4-run 7th inning where the Padres finally got some big hits, finally strung some hits together. You had a leadoff double by Sheets, a single for Cronenworth, a walk loaded the bases. Fernando Tatis Jr., a huge 2-run single to tie the game at 3. Then Manny Machado, a 2-run double to give the Padres a 5-3 lead. A great job scoring 4 runs in that 7th inning to take a 5-3 lead. And then the Padres do even better. They get 2 runs in the 9th inning to take a 7-3 lead. And then you're sitting there thinking, okay, Padres are going to go to Robert Suarez, non-save situation. This should turn out all okay for a really nice win. And that brings us to the final part of this 3-part adventure today. And that was Robert Suarez giving up 5 runs on 5 hits in that bottom half of the 9th inning. The Diamondbacks storming back to win it, and the big hits in that inning, of course, the infield RBI single for Marte, Perdomo, bases clearing triple to tie the game at 7. Morejon comes in for Suarez, faces Naylor, first pitch, bouncer, right side, Arise, not a great throw home with the infield in. Perdomo scores from third base. Diaz not really blocking the plate well in a situation where you can do it. And all in all, it was a 5-run bottom half of the 9th inning, and the Diamondbacks storm back to win it in what ends up being a great win for them and a crushing loss for the Padres as Arizona wins it 8-7. So that was the 3-part story today. Padres not scoring and trailing. They finally have the big 7th inning. They tack on, and then it just all went the wrong way in the bottom half of the 9th inning, with Suarez really struggling and the Diamondbacks scoring 5 runs. And again, we'll get an update here, I'm sure, for Mike Shildt on Jackson Merrill, who was removed from this game at the end of the 7th inning after a hard tag into his helmet. He was clearly very shaken up on a stolen base attempt. So I'm sure we'll get an update on Jackson Merrill. Let's go back to Arizona, hear from Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
How's Jackson?
Woozy.
Okay. Well, are we going to be talking probably about concussion protocol? Or?
That's what I think I'm going to share right now, and that's something we made a decision on.
Okay. What did you see from Levitt? There are a lot of pitches in the.
I saw some good at bats when Greenfield was really ready to hit fastballs, and they put some really good swings on it.
I think you guys may have put together some of your best innings in a while tonight. I wonder what you saw out of your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we put together we played a really good game. Played a very good baseball game. I thought Berger more than did his part, gutted up. Him going back out and grabbing that 5th, getting closer to his pitch count and keeping right there was big. Yuki did his part, Strider did his part. Adam was good. Just couldn't hold him off. The offense, to your point, was very good. I went through, the meat of the order. Toddy really good again. 2 RBIs, Manny 2 RBIs. Buggy, great swings. Finally got rewarded with somebody on third with a line drive to the middle. Sheets clearly had a big day. Homer, 3 knocks. We did our part to bring it home, and we trust Robert. We trust him tomorrow. It just didn't happen tonight.
What do you say about him with just the season he's had, and I guess just part of the game that these kinds of things can happen?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we don't take it for granted. He's had a fantastic season. He's leading all of Major League Baseball in saves, and he's a guy we went out there with the lead and got the lead and got him out there, and he hadn't been out there in 4 days, and is our freshest guy. So, he's an all-star last year, heading there this year, and he's a big part of the reason we have success. And he just went his day, and we love him, and we're glad he's on our side.
Your offense ended up being what it has been before, what you believe it is, but you clearly thought like in the 5th inning there, that was a crucial time. Can you talk about that decision to go with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was not completely obvious, but I mean, at that point, we got 1 run and we got some traffic out there, and we got a guy that's had some history and some success against Gallen and Iglesias, and, 5th inning's maybe a little early, but we also are carrying 3 catchers. So we can, use the roster judiciously.
And as far as, I mean, obviously we saw it, but tag just came down really hard on him.
It's the in vogue thing. We're throwing up the line and we're tagging, towards the runner now, and back in with double steal. And typically the, thought process is to get the, middle of the body to the back of the body, and just had a collision of completely clean play by, Marte, and, it just happened to where, ball landed right in a tag right in his forehead, and it clearly didn't knock him out, but it, he's still woozy.
The play in first base and the plate was really close.
Yeah, both places, it's one of those things, I mean, Bogey took to make a play, you're talking about inches either way. It's a game of inches, and we get a different ball game if, there's the out at first. We don't have to have the infield in, obviously, probably, and it's a little different. What's that?
Changes everything.
Changes everything. But it didn't happen, and, the end of the scoreboard's the end of the scoreboard.
You guys don't know kind of the next steps for Merrill at this point. That's still kind of to be determined.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after this 8-7 loss to the Diamondbacks in Arizona today. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios. So the update there on Jackson Merrill, he is still feeling the word Mike Shildt used was woozy. It didn't look great for Jackson on the field. Look, I don't want to speculate. I'm not a doctor, but obviously he was shaken up after the tag in the helmet from Ketel Marte. It was kind of an unfortunate situation where Marte tagged him in the helmet. The helmet kind of came down and I think got pressed into his head and his face, and clearly he was shaken up. And I don't think there was much a discussion whether he was going to stay in the game or come out. He came out of the game. Brendan Lockridge came in, and again, we'll have to find out what the update is, next, I would assume, day or so about what this is going to look like for Jackson Merrill. But again, what we know right now is he had to come out of the game, and according to Mike Shildt, was still feeling, the word he used was woozy. Aside from that, look, obviously a very, very tough ending. Robert Suarez clearly did not have it in the 9th inning here tonight. He's had a wonderful season, an all-star caliber season, but this was not a good appearance here tonight. And the Padres had a number of things not go their way in that 9th inning as well. The play at first base, they don't get the out, by basically, I don't know, maybe a couple of inches as far as where the ball was in relation to the back of Luis Arraez's mitt and where Marte's foot was on the bag. It was the right call on replay. Marte beat it by just a little bit. You look at that last play, maybe a little bit better execution, gets the out at home plate. But the Diamondbacks storm back to score 5 runs in that bottom half of the 9th inning. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, we will welcome your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll also have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, continue to break down this game here today. Again, the final score, Diamondbacks 8 and the Padres 7. Our post-game coverage continues after these words. Welcome back to the Jamul Casino Resort post-game show, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort Players. Kickstart your summer of fun with Jamul Casino Resort's Players Party. That is today, Saturday, June 14th. So be sure to get out to the all-new Jamul Casino Resort. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to wrap this one up. Again, the final score, Diamondbacks 8, the Padres 7. Padres have dropped the first two games of this series. They'll try to avoid a sweep tomorrow. Doesn't get any easier after tomorrow. 4 games coming up in LA Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday against the Dodgers. Padres have lost 4 out of their last 5 games, a game where they had a 7-3 lead today heading to the bottom half of the 9th inning. Robert Suarez came on in a non-save situation, and he just didn't have it. Ends up giving up 5 hits, charged with 5 earned runs, got 1 out. The Padres, between Suarez and Morejon, only got 1 out in that 9th inning, and just a very, very rough ending on what otherwise would have been a very nice win. You felt like a very much needed win with what the offense did late for the Padres, but things turned around in a hurry as the Diamondbacks win it 8-7. We will get some of your phone calls here in a little bit. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Phone number to call. I don't think it'll be the happiest phone calls we've ever had in the history of our post-game coverage. But before we get to those, we'll point out some of the positives from this one. Let's hear today's catch of the game.
Which defensive play had the biggest impact on today's game?
He is at the wall, leaps up, and he makes the catch.
This is the catch of the game.
Gonna hang a star for Jackson Merrill.
Reeled in by Anthony's Fish Grotto La Mesa, celebrating 80 years of seafood excellence.
To the inning from Berger, hit in the air to right field and deep. Fernando going back. He's on the warning track at the wall, hops up, makes the catch, and ends the inning.
Nice play by Fernando Tatis Jr. to end the 4th inning, an inning where Eugenio Suarez hit a home run, but in that spot, a runner on second base. Fernando went back on it, made a nice play on the warning track. That is today's catch of the game. I do want to talk about Ryan Berger for a second because that will get lost in the shuffle of this game because of how it ended. But I did think there was more promise from Ryan Berger in this outing after what had been 2 really good starts in his major league career, to begin his major league career with the starts in San Francisco and Milwaukee. I thought Ryan Berger looked awesome in the first 3 innings. He struck out 6. I mean, he was inducing a ton of swing and miss. He was dominant early on. Then in the 4th inning, got in trouble, a walk, a single. I didn't think it was the widest strike zone ever. Most forgiving strike zone ever from the home plate umpire, but fell behind Eugenio Suarez with a couple of runners on, a 3-1 pitch, and Suarez hit it out for a 3-run home run. But aside from that, Berger did nicely. 5 innings, 3 runs given up. He struck out 80, had a lot of swing and miss today. So that was really good to see for Ryan Berger. And I thought, after the first 2 starts were really good, even though he had one rough moment in this game with the Suarez home run, I thought there was a lot to like about this start from Ryan Berger. Just did want to make sure to tell you about that because certainly in the grand picture of this game, that certainly gets lost what he did over the 5 innings in this game. Let's tell you about our relief pitcher of the game.
Which pitcher entered the game and slammed the door shut? This is today's relief pitcher of the game, presented by David P. Shapiro Criminal Defense Attorneys. When your freedom and future are on the line, you need the best arm in the pen. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com.
Our relief pitcher of the game, we'll keep it on the Padres side of things here today because we can, because really, aside from Robert Suarez, the bullpen was very good today. You could give it to Matsui, Estrada, or Adam. They each had a scoreless inning. We'll give it to Yuki Matsui. Did a nice job getting through the heart of the Diamondbacks order, a scoreless 6th inning. Nice job by Yuki. Estrada, a scoreless 7th inning. Adam, a scoreless 8th inning. It was all set up for Robert Suarez in a 4-run game in the 9th inning before things went wrong for the Padres in that bottom half of the 9th inning. So Yuki Matsui, our relief pitcher of the game. All right, let's go to the phones. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I don't promise to have the answers for you, but As always, I promise to provide, I suppose you could say, emotional support after an ending like this. Let's begin things here today. We go to Hector calling in. Hector, you're on the Padres Radio Network. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. First off, positive vibes to Jackson Merrill. He's my favorite player of the Padres. I'm sure it's all precautionary. He'll be okay. But in terms of this, I don't want to hear ever again about the umpires and how they screw over the Padres. Tatis struck out like twice in that 7th inning. This game shouldn't even gotten to the point where the Arizona had to come back with 5 runs at the end of the game. So for the Padres, from this moment on, they can either use this game as a turning point for the rest of their season, or they can just keep going downhill in terms of their offense. I don't know what you think, but I don't know what possibly they can do in terms of the lineup.
Yeah, Hector, appreciate the phone call. I'm not totally sure what you're talking about with the 7th inning, because that's when Fernando had the 2-run single to tie the game. That was actually the best inning the Padres had all day. But look, today, it's a really tough loss. You hope they can bounce back tomorrow. But today, when I look at this loss, I mean, you just kind of squarely put it on what happened in the 9th inning. I mean, to their credit, and we know it's been a rough stretch for this offense, but to their credit, they did a lot of good things in the later part of this game offensively. They did. They were trailing 3-1. They got 2 huge hits from Tatis to tie the game, Manny to take the lead. They added on in the 9th inning. They got insurance. To me, even though the first 6 innings left a lot to be desired, the last 3 innings offensively, they did exactly what they needed to do. I mean, this was the kind of game you look at what happened in the bottom of the 9th. That's where you lost the game. So look, you can put a lot of their losses on the offense over the past month or so. You can. Today doesn't fit in that category. Today it was about the bottom of the 9th inning. I mean, the offense put them in a position to win this game today, and Robert Suarez didn't have it, and that was that. Let's go to Charles in Ramona. Charles, welcome in. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well.
So I got 2 points. One, first, so he gets in trouble, right?
Charles, I'm gonna put you back on hold here for a second because you're breaking up. Charles, I'll get back to you in a second. Let's see if your line improves. Let's go to Eric in Chula Vista. Eric, welcome to the Padres Radio Network.
Thanks again, Sam. Yeah, emotional support is right. This kid Burgard does show a lot of promise, as well as Gavin Sheets. He might be our savior leading into the end of September, hopefully into October. And another thing, Sam, as a fan, it's very difficult to be even keel. I understand these guys, managers and people in the media can do it. As a fan, it's almost impossible. And then Mike Shildt, I think some of the struggles that the team is having is rubbing off on manager Mike Shildt. Having 2 catchers in the lineup today, I know it didn't play a role in the loss. And then bringing in Suarez with a 4-run lead in the bottom of the 9th, having Morejon available, you brought him in anyways. Bring him in before Suarez. Thanks again, Sam.
Yeah, Eric, appreciate the phone call. Look, I didn't have a problem with Robert coming into this game because, A, he was already warming up for the top of the 9th, or excuse me, the bottom half of the 9th inning when it was a save situation. Remember, it was only a 5-3 game going into the top of the 9th inning. So he's warming up naturally. I didn't have a problem with Robert coming in a non-save situation. Now, if you're somebody out there that wants to say, there's always something when closers come in a non-save situation that it always seems like that's like a dangerous proposition where, they're not totally locked in because it's not a save situation. I mean, you can go to that. I had no problem with Robert coming in this game in a 4-run game, whether it's a 3-run game or a 4-run game. Robert Suarez should be able to shut the door on the win. Now, if you want to say that Robert clearly didn't have it from early on in that outing and they should have gone to Morejon earlier, hey, that's a fair argument. Clearly, Mike Shildt wanted to allow Robert to get out of that jam, and he trusts Robert Suarez, which I don't blame him for, but it would have been an option to go get him a little bit earlier. I guess the Perdomo at bat probably is the spot there, to go get him. You could have, and just acknowledged that Robert didn't have his best stuff and tried to go to Morahone. Now, Perdomo's a switch hitter, so it wouldn't have been lefty on lefty. I'd have to go look up, and I can during the break, the splits for Perdomo to see how he hits from the right side. So you would have turned Perdomo around. But look, they kept Robert in. They tried to ride through that 9th inning with them, with their closer. And Suarez gives up the bases clearing triple, 5 hits in the inning, and they lose the game. I don't know how much I can fault Mike Shildt for wanting to stay with a guy who's been so good, but is there always going to be a flip side of the argument to say, hey, you know what? Let's go get Morahone, and even though we love Robert, this isn't his night. There's always going to be that argument, but that's not what they elected to do. They elected to try to get through the game with Suarez, and it gives up the big hit to Perdomo. They go to Morahone, and look, Morahone did nothing wrong in this game. Gets weak contact, a tapper. Again, if Arise makes a lower throw, wasn't a great throw from Luis because it was high, and Diaz had to go up to get it, and that's a bang play at home plate. You got to execute all the little things on that type of play defensively, but then you have Diaz. That's a spot where he probably could have blocked the plate more because that's actually a spot with the infield in and a runner on third where you can block the plate. He didn't. He really gave Perdomo a clear lane to home plate. So Morahone did nothing wrong. I mean, he got weak contact, and you could argue that the Padres, if they execute a couple of things a little bit better, they get that out at home plate. So, look, they decided to ride with Suarez through that 9th inning, and it didn't work out. Padres end up losing the game. All right, we'll step aside. We'll get some more of your phone calls here in a moment. 833-288-0973. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Get you ready for tomorrow. Our post-game coverage on the Padres Radio Network continues after this. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score, the Diamondbacks 8 and the Padres 7. Padres at a 7-4 lead heading into the bottom half of the ninth inning, but Robert Suarez charged with 5 earned runs in the bottom half of the ninth inning, got just 1 out in that inning, and the D-backs stormed back to win it by a final score of 8-7. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll also hear our play of the game coming up in just a little bit. Let's go back to the phones, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, phone number to dial. Let's go back to Charles in Ramona. Charles, your connection was a little bit on and off earlier. Let's try again. Charles, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I got you now.
All right, cool. So I got 2 points. The first one, during the first home run, leading up to that, he had a base hit and a walk. I can't remember if that's the order of it. My question is, why didn't we go out to that rookie and do a nice mound visit to calm him down and potentially prevent that home run? And then my point number 2 is my argument of why we shouldn't have used Suarez. 1, not a safe situation. 2, the Diamondbacks are the best fastball hitting team in the league, and he's Bobby Fastball. So it's a matchup nightmare. So for Suarez, it's just a bad matchup, not necessarily, and that's why I think that we should have used Morihone over Suarez, mainly because of the matchup. His fastball is great, but they are great fastball hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So it just didn't, it kind of, it could have worked out, it could have not worked out, but I just think that the matchup was better with Morihone in that situation. And
all right.
Yep. They kind of dropped the ball there.
Okay, Charles, appreciate the phone call. Look, Robert obviously relies on the fastball a lot. There's a good offensive team, the Diamondbacks. They've done that a lot this year where they've come back in games as a good offensive team. Look, I'll go to your point on Berger. I think that's what you were talking about in the 4th inning. I mean, look, I don't recall if Ruben went out there or not, but I mean, it's a 1-0 game. It's a 2 runners on situation. I mean, you don't necessarily, even though he's a rookie, you don't need to necessarily go out there. I mean, every time he gets in trouble, you're not going to go out there. So I didn't have any problem with that. Look, Berger was good. Gave up a home run, and look, a lot happened in this game after that. My goodness, the Padres had a 4-run lead after that happened. So I'm not going to go too crazy with Berger giving up the home run. It is what it is. Suarez is a home run hitter. Look, maybe you're right. Maybe you're onto something about the matchup not being great for Suarez. But again, to me, he's your closer. He's been really good this year. He's going to have to face the Diamondbacks during the course of this season, during the 13 meetings they play. I had no issue with him coming into the game. Now, if you want to say, hey, he clearly didn't have it, and, maybe you try something else there, you bring in Morihone earlier to, let's say, face Perdomo, well, that's an argument that I'll listen to, because Robert clearly was struggling and, may have been a moment to go to somebody else. But look, they decided to try to ride through it with Robert, and unfortunately, it didn't work out here tonight. Let's go to Ronnie calling in. Ronnie, you're on the Padres Radio Network with Sam Levitt. Welcome in.
Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Sam, I just have one person. I need a minute of your time. Xander Bogaerts. What is your opinion of him?
Well, Ronnie, look, Ronnie, look, he obviously, it's been not the performance you wanted out of him during the course of his time in San Diego so far. I mean, he would say the same thing, right? He expects more of himself. Look, the numbers, there's no shying away from it. The numbers aren't what you would want him to be from an offensive standpoint. And, look, he's on a big contract. My expectation, he's going to be here for a long time. And, I hope he's able to find that more Red Sox version of himself. I mean, look, I'm a Xander Bogaerts fan. I've always said that. I think he's a hard worker. I don't think it's a work ethic thing. I think he's a hard worker. I like Xander. I think he's got winning experience. He's won 2 World Series. But unfortunately, and especially right now, the first third of this season, now going on the first half of this season, Look, the numbers aren't where you want them to be, and I hope the best days for Xander in a Padres uniform are still to come. That's what I'll give you. Let's go to Juan calling in from Oceanside. Juan, you're on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome in.
Hey, what's up, Sam?
Hey.
Just wanted to talk about the game tonight. I know it's frustrating. It's a tough loss. Robert Suarez, he's a great reliever, and just didn't have it today. From my eye test, it does seem like Shildt maybe is maybe over-managing the bullpen, but again, it's my eye test. I'm managing from my couch, but I think the important thing to have after this loss is just some perspective. Team is still 8 games above 500. They still have a long road ahead, and I think the Doomers are being emboldened right now, and there's still a lot to do.
Yeah, Juan,
for Preller and for the rest of the team.
Yeah, Juan, it's an interesting point because, and look, I'm not trying to tell you that it hasn't been. If you zoom out here, you go back a while. Look, they got off to a hot start, and they've played a little bit under 500 since then. But some perspective, Juan, to your point. The Padres are 38-31. They're a game and a half up for the final wild card spot in the National League. It's not like this team is sitting at 27-41 and they're the Marlins right now. I do think you need a little perspective. I'll tell you this also. I know this is a really rough loss. Okay, anytime you give up 5 runs in the bottom half of the 9th inning to lose a game, it's going to be a really, really rough loss. However, you could make the argument that the rougher losses have actually been these games where the Padres just don't score and they're really winnable and their pitching does plenty enough to win and they don't win it. I mean, to me, it almost feels like, look, you have relievers, and we've seen Robert Suarez have these outings before, not often, but they do happen. You have relievers and closers that don't have it. And these kinds of losses do, over the course of 162, happen, even with a great closer. And I think Robert's going to be an all-star this year. So I'm not telling you it's not a rough loss. That was a real bad way to lose when you got a 7-3 lead in the 9th inning. But, you could sell me on the games where they haven't scored being even tougher than this one. This one, again, was set up to be a really nice win, and it just got away with what happened in the bottom half of the 9th inning. So tough one. Look, with that said, do I think the season's over here on June 14th? I do not. If you want to pick out the positives from this game, the offense did a nice job waking up late. Berger was solid again. But are there concerns about what we've seen from the offense? Sure. Are there concerns about the rotation? I think in the big picture, sure. Without King and Darvish and not knowing when those guys are going to be back, a bullpen that has been used a lot. Robert's been used a lot, although he hadn't pitched since, I think it was Monday. He hadn't pitched since, let me make sure it was Monday. Yeah, I mean, look, if it were a different situation, I might say, well, this might be an example of the bullpen being overused. But Robert hadn't pitched since Monday. So he was fresh. Was that a part of why he was not good tonight? I don't know. Was it, he hadn't pitched in a while and it's a non-save situation? Maybe. But he clearly didn't have it here tonight and gave up some big hits and unraveled on him in that bottom half of the 9th inning. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, everything that has gone final here tonight. Red Sox beat the Yankees 4-3 at Fenway. Braves beat the Rockies 4-1 in Atlanta. Cardinals beat the Brewers 8-5 in Milwaukee. A's beat the Royals 4-0 in Kansas City. Astros over the Twins 3-2 in Houston. Rays beat the Mets in New York 8-4. Rangers beat the White Sox in 5-4. Phillies beat the Blue Jays 3-2 in Philadelphia. Orioles 6, Angels 5 in Baltimore. Cubs beat the Pirates 2-1 at Wrigley. Reds beat up on the Tigers 11-1 in Detroit. Marlins beat the Nationals 4-3 in D.C. 2 games going on right now. Dodgers ahead of the Giants 7-0 in L.A. in the 5th inning, and the Guardians and the Mariners tied at 2 in Seattle in the 5th. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Saturday. Let's hear tonight's play of the game.
The line between winning and losing can be razor thin. Which play was the difference between victory and defeat? This is today's Play of the Game, presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
Bases loaded, one out, up by 3. The 1-1 pitch ripped into right field. That's a base hit. Moreno has scored. Thomas is being waved. It gets beyond Tatis all the way to the wall. Here comes Marte. The game is tied. Perdomo into third with a bases clearing triple, and it's 7-7 here in the 9th.
Our play of the game gives me no great pleasure for this to be it, but has to be that way today. Geraldo Perdomo, that bases clearing triple. What a hit for Geraldo Perdomo in the bottom half of the 9th inning. Went from a 7-4 Padre lead to a tie game at 7, and then Morahone comes in. Little tapper, first base side, off the bat of Josh Naylor. Padres can't get the out at home as Perdomo scores from third base. I mean, what a sequence there for Perdomo. 3-run triple to tie it. And then he scores from third base, a head-first dive, enough speed to come in and win it for the D-backs. So credit where credit's due. Big couple of moments there for Geraldo Perdomo, his 3-run triple, our play of the game. As always, if you missed any portion of our post-game coverage, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast with Sam Levitt, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast. You can also go back on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel and watch any portion of our post-game coverage there as well. All right, tough one here tonight. Let's look ahead to tomorrow. Final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Right-hander Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Padres tomorrow. Right-hander Merrill Kelly on the mound for Arizona. First pitch tomorrow, 1:10 p.m. Our pregame coverage will begin at 12:10 from inside our San Diego studios. We'll go out to Jesse and Tony right at the top of the hour at 1 p.m. Taking a look at the final totals here tonight. For the Diamondbacks, 8 runs, 9 hits, 1 error. They left on 7. For the Padres, 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors. They left on 8. Winning pitcher in this game, Kevin Ginkel, who improves to 1-3. Losing pitcher was Robert Suarez, who drops to 1-2. Time of game, 3 hours and 4 minutes. And the crowd at Chase Field in Phoenix, 37,561. Once again, first pitch tomorrow, 1:10. Pregame coverage begins at 12:10. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Bobby Sharton, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long and good night from inside our San Diego studios. Again, the final score here tonight, the Arizona Diamondbacks 8 and the San Diego Padres 7. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Padres Radio Network. Have a great rest of your Saturday.